One of the hardest decisions parents have to make is whether you have both spouses continue to work or whether you have one spouse stay at home. I see it all the time. People get pregnant, they're gonna have their first baby, they think that they're both gonna continue to work, and then baby happens and they completely change their mind. It's really hard to know what you're gonna wanna do after, as you've never really experienced the emotions, but financially you can do some things to best set you up. First, I would say focus on living off of one income. This is something actually my parents taught me when I was really young, which I think is a really good idea to set yourself up to have this option, right? So let's say both of you work, one makes $150,000, one makes $100,000, and you say, well, probably not gonna have anybody stay at home, but if we were, it would be the person who makes $100,000 of income. If this is your situation for a year or two before when you're trying to have a child, I recommend living off one of the income and saving the other income. What this does is two things. First, it lets you see if you guys could live off of the income and whether this is actually a possibility. For some people, both parents working is just a reality they have to face because of their living expenses, if they live in a high cost of living area, etc. So that's one thing it does really well. And two, it helps you build up extra savings. So if you decide, well, hey, maybe I can't stay at home, but maybe I can move to, 4 days a week or 3 days a week or move to part-time, you've now built up extra savings to help, serve as a buffer for that time where maybe you're making less income. So this decision becomes really personal based on what you want. I sit down with people all the time and they say, hey, we barely make more from this income than we would if it would be to pay for somebody to take care of our kids, what should we do? And it's not as simple as saying, hey, you make $40,000, it's gonna cost $40,000 to have a full-time nanny or whatever you're gonna do, you shouldn't do it, right? Because for some people, working is about more than bringing in income. It provides value, they get to do something where they feel really good about it, maybe they feel smart, and so, what you want matters. For other people, they might say, there's no way I'm gonna continue to work if it's gonna cost me the exact same amount to pay for childcare. I'd much rather my kid grow up with me at home than from a nanny when, especially financially, it doesn't help us out. So I think you really have to think about what's important to you. Is working important to you? Do you feel a lot of value, or is it mission-driven work that you really enjoy? Or do you really wanna make sure that you guys are the ones that are home all day helping raise your kids? So I think figuring out the financial side and preparing for it is one really important part, but there are a few things that you need to consider if you do have one spouse stay at home. You first need to think about how many years is this going to be? Because when you make less income, it's not as simple as, hey, we just take home this much less, we got to figure out how to live off of it. You're also probably going to lose your 401k match through work. You could potentially have to move off of one person's benefits to another person's benefits that might be more expensive. It might mean that you're saving less and investing less. So you really want to work through this and think through the math and say, hey, how much farther behind is this going to put us, if any, right? I think for people who have a really high savings rate and have done really well early on, it creates the ability for you to have one spouse stay at home. For others who maybe haven't done as well, you might have to face the reality that either you have to figure out how to cut back on expenses or you potentially have to continue to work. It is a really hard decision. It's one you want to get right, but you can also think through and say, hey, we're only going to have a couple kids. They're going to be 2 years apart. I'm going to stay at home for 5 to 7 years until my youngest is in preschool, and then I'm going to go back to work. And at that period of time, we can focus on not raising our expenses a lot, but increasing our savings to get back on track. So like I said, this decision is really, really hard. The first step is to think about the finances, right? Start to live off of one income if you think that this is a reality that you're gonna face, and see if that works, right? If it's really hard to live off of that one income, you might have to look at other options. It might be working part-time. It might be just reducing by a day. You might ask, hey, can I just work from 10 to 3 every day? And maybe this sounds far-fetched to people, but I've worked with a lot of people where employers, especially at small businesses, don't want to lose this key employee, so they're willing to work with you to make sure that you're able to do this. So again, start with the finances, see what it feels like to live off of it, build extra savings as a cushion. A lot of times I see what parents do is they might have 3 months off of paid leave and they'll say, hey, I'll take another 3 or 6 months off without pay. And that extra cushion can help serve, as a buffer while you wait to go back to work. And then, just think about the differences that this makes. Is it going to cut down on some of your savings and your investing? And if so, how are you going to be able to get back on track? For many people, they would say, I'd rather work 5 more years later on in life, but be able to be at home with my kids when they're younger. And for that person, it totally makes sense to stop working. For another person who says, I hate work, I want to be done working as fast as I can, I make way more than it's going to cost for daycare, I would much rather just continue to work, then that's the right choice for them. So this situation becomes really personal. This decision becomes really personal. So take your time, think about it. But the earlier you plan, the earlier you build savings, the earlier you learn to live off of one of the incomes, then the better you are set up for doing this. But again, don't feel any guilt. There's no right answer here of what to do. It's very situational based on what's important to you. Thank you for watching, and if you like this video, please leave a like and go subscribe to my channel for more personal finance content. And as always, we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. See you back next week.